So it's no secret that the key to a happy life is to have some type of connection, a relationship, if you will, with somebody. It could be a relationship with your parents, your mom, your dad, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your husband or wife, fiance, your siblings. And so relationships and keeping in touch with your loved ones or those people that matter to you is more important today in 2025 than it's ever been. In the world where the economy is kind of all over the place and there are families being separated and people losing their jobs, sometimes all it takes to brighten up your day is to see a picture of the person that you love. Again, that person could be your parents, it could be your cat or dog, it could be your parakeet, whatever it may be. So that leads me into the introduction of today's device, which is going to be this. This is the Kodak 10-inch digital display picture frame. And so obviously I've already unboxed it. Fortunately, the unboxing isn't very difficult. There's not a lot of things you get in the unboxing. You get the power supply, you get a little bit of a kickstand here, we'll talk about that, and then you get a USB to a USB-C wire. So that way you're able to transfer media, be that pictures, videos, or music, from your, let's say, computer over to your new digital picture frame. Also within the box, you're going to be able to see this inside of it. This is basically the manual that 9 out of 10 people are actually just going to disregard and throw away. But this one is pretty good because it has pictures and it has colors, and it also has some kind of just technical specs in there. So that way, if for whatever reason I don't cover something in my video, you can always refer back to that manual and then be able to accomplish it on your picture frame. So before I actually turn on and set up the digital picture frame, I'm gonna go ahead and go over the box here to help us understand what Kodak exactly is advertising. If that doesn't interest you, I'm gonna leave a timestamp down below so that way you can jump to the setup process. So this box here is pretty simplistic. You're actually going to see on the back here that there are going to be a dozen or so kind of tile icons that identify the kind of showcase capabilities, features of this 10-inch display. So the first thing that they're going to pull your eyes to is going to be that this display is a 10-inch 800 by 1280 resolution display. So it's not 4K, but 1280 by 800 is actually really good, especially on a condensed 10-inch display. The next feature that they advertise is going to be the fact that you can email photos directly to your frame. In my example, this frame. Now I want to fully disclose that you don't actually have to be on the same network. So that means so long as your frame as well as your smartphone or your tablet has some type of internet connection on Verizon or Wi-Fi home network, you're able to go ahead and snap a shot, and then that will then be emailed to that frame. And that means I could take a picture or a video of my adorable cat and then email it to my parents, and they'll be able to see how loving my cat is. Another thing that they're advertising here is going to be the fact that this frame has a 32 internal memory, meaning that you're able to transfer media, photos from your computer via a USB stick and then plug it into this actual device, so that way you don't actually have to rely on internet. Obviously, using this digital picture frame with the internet is the most optimum and premium experience, but for whatever reason, if your Wi-Fi goes out, you could have some pictures preloaded onto a USB stick, and then you're able to enjoy all of those pictures on this digital frame so long as you have electricity. The next feature that Kodak advertises for this is going to be a weather display. So this frame is not just going to be a picture frame. It actually displays weather, and so you'll be able to see what's the highs, what's the lows, what's the forecast. So another cool feature that Kodak is advertising here on the box is the fact that you could use your iPhone, your Android, your Samsung, your Google phone, whatever it may be, and you could actually take pictures with that particular smart device, your, again, smartphone, and then so long as you have the app installed and connected to this particular frame, you're then able to take a picture of your cat or whatever it may be, and then send it to this frame or the frame over the cloud, and then whoever's supposed to receive it is going to receive it. So what I'm saying is that I could actually be here in Seattle and send my parents in Virginia a picture of my loving cat, and they'll actually be able to receive that video or that picture of Emmy in a matter of seconds, which is just pivotal in today's age in society, because connections and staying in touch with the people you love is super important to just your general well-being, your psyche. So it's going to help not just you, but it's also going to help your parents, or it's also going to help your children, whoever wants to see the picture of you. I think this is really cool technology. And in regards to technology, this isn't new by any means. This actually came out a few years ago. So if you're buying a newer version, I'm not sure like the actual market for new digital picture frames, but this one so far is seeming to be pretty good. The next feature that Kodak is advertising here on the box is going to be that there's a gyroscope, meaning that if your frame is like this, your pictures or videos are going to show up horizontally, again, because there's a gyroscope. Or if your picture frame is like this, then your pictures are going to show up vertically or in portrait mode. The next 3 features that Kodak is advertising on the box here is going to be all media based. It's obviously going to show pictures and photos. The next thing that you wouldn't expect for this frame to be able to do is to play videos. So when I think of a picture frame, I think of a still shot. I think of a picture or a photo that's not moving. Whereas this digital picture frame, it does. It allows you to send your loved ones. It allows you to see 15 seconds worth of video. So if you're going to be using your phone to capture your grandchildren's, I don't know, 3-hour graduation ceremony and then expect to have that all displayed on this camera, it doesn't work that way. You only get 15 seconds of a video, so that way you can upload it to this frame. It's going to have the capabilities of playing music. In the limelight of music, I want to fully disclose that you cannot install applications onto this particular frame. Even though this frame is running off of a version of Android operating system, you cannot install Spotify or Apple Music, Samsung Music, YouTube Music. It doesn't work that way. In order for you to have music onto this digital frame, you do have to have a USB stick and then plug in that USB stick into the digital frame, which then transfers to the frame because the frame in and of itself does have 2 speakers. The last 3 advertised features on the box here is going to be the calendar, the wireless connectivity, and the touchscreen display. So the calendar is probably the only built-in proprietary app. There isn't any other type of software on this except to display pictures and potentially play songs via that USB stick that I just mentioned. But you are able to go into the calendar here just so that way you can know what date it is. You're not actually able to go into the calendar and select on, I don't know, let's say whatever day today is, and then add a reminder or say that my doctor's or dentist appointment is next week. It doesn't work that way. It's simply just a calendar. Think of it as one of those old-fashioned paper calendars, and it's just digitized onto a frame. So the internet connectivity here is going to be exclusively wireless. There is no way to do any Ethernet drops or anything like that. It has to be wireless. So the only way to get media onto this frame without using the internet or an app and what have you is to have one of these. So I'm not sure how many people still have these. These USB sticks were pretty popular when I was back in high school, but now everything seems to be going off of the cloud. I'm one of those people who still have these, not because I'm super geeky and nerdy, but because my girlfriend actually bought this for me so that way I could do content creation. So I will actually be able to load pictures and whatnot over to this particular device before I send this frame over to my parents. And so just on the back of the screen here, they do also have some technical specs. And so again, if you're not interested in that, I'll put a link down below so that way you can skip over it. But this again is going to be a 10.1-inch display touchscreen. The resolution is going to be 800 by 1280 pixels. The memory and the RAM is going to have 16 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of ROM or storage. You then have a few different types of ports that are going to be on this frame, and we're going to talk about that here shortly, but you're going to have a regular old-fashioned SD card slot, as well as a slot for the USB, and then also this frame is going to be USB-C compatible, so there is going to be a USB-C port into it, and then for those technical people, the Wi-Fi is going to be using 802.11 BGN. So I do want to also fully disclose that if you are going to be connecting this to your Wi-Fi network or maybe your parents' Wi-Fi network, don't connect it onto the 5G frequency home network, connect it to the 2G frequency, so that way it's just weird, but that's what works. So inside this box, there isn't really too much in there. So fortunately, I already went ahead and unboxed it for you all. Okay, so here is the actual frame. This again is a 10.1 touchscreen 800 by 1280 display. And you can see here that the frame actually has like this darker kind of perimeter frame. This is supposedly wood. I don't feel like it feels like wood. Maybe it's plastic with infused wood somewhere or something like that, but it definitely doesn't feel like any tree that I've seen growing out in nature. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. On the back end, you can see that there are going to be these little circles right here. And there's 2 sets of those circles. Those are going to be speakers. Again, this is able to play music so long as you transferred that music via the USB stick. And then continuing onto the back end here, you see this little dark sticker area. Well, if you flip the frame like this, like flat, then you're actually going to see your ports. So you're going to have 5 ports here. You're going to have a 3.5mm headphone jack. So if you have an auxiliary wire and you have, let's say, a Bose SoundLink speaker or some type of external speaker, you can actually attach that external speaker to this, so that way any type of music that you've transferred via this USB stick, you are able to go ahead and output that to an external speaker versus the built-in speakers. You then have a regular USB port in here. Again, that's going to be for this one right here. But then something that really caught me off guard is going to be the fact that there is a USB-C port. So had I actually recorded the unboxing for you, which I actually did, but my iPhone didn't want to work with me, so I'm re-recording this for the 3rd time. Inside of the box, you would have received this wire, and that's going to be a USB to a USB-C wire. So that means you have basically 3 different ways to transfer media to this device. So the first avenue would be using Wi-Fi. The second one would be using a USB stick. The third avenue would be to use the wire to connect one side to your computer, the other side to the USB-C port in the actual frame, and then you're able to transfer pictures, media, whatever it is. And so in terms of technological ports, that's pretty much it. You do have a power button on the back here, so you are able to turn it on and turn it off. But also on the back, you have 3 additional divots. So here you can see there is a mounting hole. And then over here, you can see there's another mounting hole. That means that you're actually able to take this frame and mount it onto a wall, be that horizontally or vertically. But then it actually gets better because of the fact that at the bottom right-hand corner of this, you have this feature right here. And so again, you didn't see it because I didn't record it, but during the unboxing, you got this little doohickey, this little stand here. And so this stand is actually going to connect to this hole. So it's actually going to allow for you to use this particular frame horizontally or vertically. And it really just depends on how you want to install it. So that way was the example of the horizontal way, but then if you wanted to install it so that way the frame is going to be standing up like portrait mode, you just rotate it the opposite direction and now you have a portrait picture frame. So really cool feature. I like the versatility of it. I would have to say that this kind of stand feature feels a little bit on the cheaper side. So for instance, in the unfortunate event that the frame kind of takes a spill and falls and this is connected, I could 100% see this thing kind of like snapping off. This stand also has like a little rubbery section right there, just so that way when it is on the desk, it has a little bit of traction. So before I get to the actual power supply of this frame, I want to fully disclose that there are these little clips right here. There are going to be 4 of them on the back end of the frame. And so this is actually going to be allowing you as the person who's using the frame to customize your frame. Now, I'm not affiliated with Kodak. They didn't send this to me. I bought this with my own money. But when I did purchase this off Amazon, I saw frames like this on the kind of like also purchased together feature on Amazon. I didn't really understand it at that time, but now I see that it's a means of customization. All right, so now let's get over to actually turning this device on. I want to fully disclose that this frame does not, I repeat, does not have an internal battery, meaning that in order for this frame to actually work, you have to have it plugged in all the time. So the electrical plug here is going to be a barrel type plug here. You can see it's not USB. And so you're going to have this particular plug plugged into some type of electrical source, which then plugs into the frame if you want to have this frame to be more than just a pretty paperweight. Because again, it doesn't have an internal battery. And that means there's no charging or recharging. It just means that if there's electrical power, it turns on. And if there isn't electrical power, then it doesn't turn on. So I plugged in the actual charging puck over to the wall outlet over there. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this into the proprietary charging ports on the actual device. And as soon as I plug it in, the Kodak branding starts to show up on the digital display. And now let's go ahead and do a setup. All right, so as you plug in your digital frame into the power outlet, you can see that it is loading here. And so the Kodak branding is going to be seen throughout all of the graphical user interface for this particular frame. And it does take a few minutes for this frame to actually load up. So drink the I believe juice and know that it is loading. So the next step in setting up this frame is then going to be asking us to set up our language. So obviously I'm speaking English, but this is going to be subjective to you. You can see that there's quite a lot of other languages you can select from. We're going to go and select next. As you press on the digital button, you're actually able to hear some type of audio feedback. There is no vibration and or haptic feedback on this frame. The next section for setup is going to be selecting a time zone. I'm going to go ahead and stay with the Eastern time zone over here, mainly because I'm going to be sending this to my parents. So I'm going to go and select next. And then from there, it's going to ask you to set up your internet connection. This is naturally going to look for all of the wireless networks in your immediate vicinity. So it's going to look for wireless internet connections from your home, your neighbor's home, what have you. And so you just want to make sure you're selecting the correct internet Wi-Fi to connect to. Mine is going to be IP frequently at the very top there. You will have to have your Wi-Fi password, so make sure to have that handy. I'm going to go ahead and input my password so that way we can continue. After you put in your Wi-Fi password, that's pretty much the most technical versed situation while setting up this digital frame. Now that we've logged into the Wi-Fi via the frame, you can then see what I'm going to be calling the home screen. At the top left-hand corner, you have the Kodak Digital Frame branding. That's one of the brandings that you're not able to remove. At the top right-hand corner, you'll then see the clouds icon, as well as the time and the Wi-Fi symbol. If you or your loved one or whomever is going to be utilizing this frame and you or your loved one is unable to send and or receive pictures, I would highly recommend that you look at the Wi-Fi symbol, because remember that this is only going to be able to receive emails and pictures from the actual Kodak app via Wi-Fi, meaning that your device that you're taking pictures has to have internet connection and this digital frame has to have internet connection. If you are having wireless Wi-Fi issues and you're unable to connect this frame to your actual home network, there are two steps that I could recommend for troubleshooting. First one is going to be focusing on making sure that you just do a simple reset of your router and modem. This typically is going to be sufficient for you to be able to get your network to kind of wake up. The next troubleshooting step I can recommend is going to be making sure that you're connecting this frame to the 2 gigahertz Wi-Fi network, wherever this is going to be living. If you connect this frame to the 5 gigahertz frequency of your wireless network, there may be some issues. So save yourself some of the heartache and frustration and connect it to your 2 gigahertz frequency at your home network or wherever your Wi-Fi is going to be, just to save yourself some time and frustration. Now on the home screen here, we're going to see one major rectangle, but then we're going to see 6 smaller tiles at the bottom. This major rectangle on the main portion of the screen is selectable. So you're going to be able to see the stock pictures that are already installed onto your frame. Again, this is going to be subjective because as people continue to send you pictures and videos, you're able to swipe left and right to change what we're looking at. In order to go back to our homepage, you simply select on this picture and or video respective to you, and then you'll see some user graphical navigation digital buttons appear. At the top left-hand corner, we have the back button, which is going to take us back to the home screen. And then at the bottom of the screen, we have additional digital buttons to press. We have play all, which is going to cycle through all of the either stock pictures and or pictures that your loved ones are sending you. You can crop any of these pictures, so that way if you wanted to adjust the size, you can select that. You can rotate the picture, so that way you can have this picture be in landscape or portrait settings. And then you have the info, which is going to essentially give you the timestamp of when that picture or video was taken. And then you have more settings, which is going to allow for you to add background music, add a calendar display, select the tab display for 10 seconds, display mode, which is going to be typically normal, which is going to affect your aspect ratio for how you're viewing this. And then you have the play intervals and the play animation. So the play interval section here is going to be super helpful because it's set to 5 seconds, meaning that each of these videos and pictures are going to be set for 5 seconds before they switch to a new picture or video. And then the last setting here is going to be play animation. This is going to be allowing for your pictures to have a transition from a zoom in or swipe over type transition. In order to change any of these settings from each of these respective pictures, you would want to make sure that you press on it and then select from the settings. Most of the time I would say that the default setting is probably best. However, you can change that to whatever you want to customize. So if you want to delete a picture or video, look to the top right hand corner of the screen, you'll see a trash icon, and then you're able to delete that video or picture. So for instance, if we wanted to delete the stock picture, all we had to do is make sure that these digital buttons are on. We would do that by pressing on the screen once, selecting that trash can button, so that way it deletes it off of our frame's memory. Now to get back onto the home page, we press on the screen once, we select the back button at the top left hand corner, and now let's go ahead and discuss these 6 tiles at the bottom of the frame. So starting off with the album tile at the bottom left hand corner, this is going to be where you can import local pictures and videos via the USB-C stick that I mentioned earlier, or you could have user upload. Both of these are sufficient ways to add pictures and videos. So whenever we decide to send a picture or video of our adventure, we would have to use the Kodak app, which we'll talk about later on in the video, or send that video via email. And all of that information would then ultimately land in the local album. And then on the right-hand side, we have some customization and setting. The next tile that we're going to be looking at is going to be the music tile. So remember, I just want to fully disclose that this does not have any abilities to connect to your Spotify account, any type of streaming services like Apple Music or YouTube Music, Samsung Music, anything like that. All of the music media on this particular frame is going to have to be manually installed via a USB stick, and that's going to be taking place again on the back side where there is a USB port. Do know that you do have a memory card slot back here. Make notice that that is not a micro SD card slot, so you will have to have the old-fashioned memory card in there, and you can actually have that installed regularly if you want to have pictures or media or whatever it is that you want on this frame if you don't want to use the actual proprietary USB port. Now let's go back to our home page here. Let's go ahead and select the back icon. You can then see that there is video. Again, this frame is going to be allowing for local or user upload. That's going to be via the email or the app at the top there, or local import, again, using that memory card slot I just mentioned, and or a USB stick. And then on the right hand side, again, you are able to have some customization portions, and also just as a gentle reminder that only 15 seconds worth of video is allowed to be played back on this frame. Now that we're back at the home page, we then have the calendar tile. If we select this calendar tile, it's pretty neat because of the fact that on the left-hand side, if you have a picture, you can have a picture selected here. Again, if you have a personal picture, you can have that placed here. Otherwise, you can select the clock icon, so that way you have a calendar portion as well as a clock here. For those of you who are not military time savvy, you can actually change this from a 24-hour format to a 12-hour format. We'll go over that here shortly. On the calendar section here, this is going to be a basic calendar. This is not the type of calendar where you're able to add any type of reminder system. It's simply just here to tell the date. So you can see here that as I press on any of these numbers for the dates, there is no plus sign to say that I have a dental appointment on XYZ day, or I have a birthday reminder on XYZ day. This calendar is the most simplistic digital calendar you could possibly imagine, because it's doing exactly what it is, giving the dates. So again, to go back to our home screen, there's that little yellow back button there. Let's go ahead and press that, and here we are at our home screen again. Our fifth tile is going to be the weather, so we can select that weather tile. And then you can see here that it's going to give the information on the current weather for where you are located, or that general vicinity. So you can see in the main portion here, it's 44 degrees. You can change that to Celsius or Fahrenheit respectfully. You can see that the current weather situation for me here in Seattle is going to be showers/rain, with the general location, the dates, and then the humidity of your location. And then these two bottom rectangles are going to be the forecast. So the bottom left-hand corner is going to be the forecast for the next day, and then the bottom right-hand corner is going to be the forecast for the day after. So today is April 1st, or April Fool's, so the bottom left-hand corner is going to indicate April 2nd, the bottom right-hand corner is going to indicate April 3rd. And so you can actually go to the top right-hand corner and see this kind of circle icon. that is going to refresh the weather so that way you're getting the most up-to-date information respectfully. And then you have a magnifying glass at the top right-hand corner. So if you wanted to add a different location in where you wanted to track the weather, then you're able to add, let's say, Honolulu. And so once you add that weather, you can then see that Honolulu County is going to be 75 degrees and partly cloudy with their humidity at 78 degrees. And then all that information for the forecast is still going to be subjective to that location. I do want to state that if you manually added a different city, you will have to manually revert back to your original city or your original location. So if, again, I entered in Honolulu, but I am wanting to go back to, let's say, Seattle, I am able to go ahead and select Seattle there, and we'll just go to King County, Seattle. And then it takes a second for it to update, but then you can see King County, and this is going to be the weather for your location. So bottom line up front for the weather aspect of this frame is that you can track different locations' weathers. However, if you're going to try and track your location, you have to manually reset it by selecting the city in that magnifying glass. Going back to our home screen, let's go ahead and press back. We then have our last tile, which is going to be the settings icon. This is going to be how you pair your phone, your iOS or Android device, over to this particular frame. And so this is very important because you will have to scan the QR code here, and you will have to scan that QR code via the Kodak Digital Frame app, which you've noticed at the top of the screen here. Scanning the QR code is not the only way to pair to this particular frame. If you want your family member in a different city or country to pair to this frame, you would simply give him this number right here, which is going to be a dynamic number. It refreshes every 300 seconds or so, and they will have to input that code into the Kodak Digital Frame app. Once that person has effectively inputted the app or scanned the QR code, they're then able to send the frame, videos, and pictures via that Kodak Digital Frame app. And it only takes a few seconds for the frame to receive that particular picture. In the settings, if we swipe over to the left, you're then going to see your internet connection. Again, this is a great way to troubleshoot your digital frame. If you are having any type of wireless issues, you want to make sure that your particular Wi-Fi or wireless network is connected. Do know that you are only able to connect to one Wi-Fi at a time. And just as a gentle reminder, try to make sure that you are connecting to the 2 gigahertz frequency on that Wi-Fi. Continuing on to the settings icons, you can see that we're going to swipe left again, and this is going to be the place where you're able to customize. So you're able to customize the language. You can see that there's a screensaver. So after a minute of inactivity, you can select it to go to the clock, or you can select it to go after 5, 10, 30 minutes, or maybe never. So let's go and select never. And then you can see under that it says screensaver type. So digital clock or an analog clock, a Christmas clock, Halloween clock, very festive. And at the very bottom, you can actually have album. So that's a customized clock for you as well. For us, we're going to keep it at digital. And then we're going to go to the display mode. Again, display mode is going to affect your aspect ratio and when you're looking at particular pictures and or videos. The play interval, we discussed that earlier, the same thing with the play animation. And then you also have a feature for type of startup autoplay. So for whatever reason, if your frame is turned off and you turn it back on, you can have this frame set to whatever it is. You can have it set to music or pictures or video or just the main interface display that we've been working with in this video. We can then see that has a periodic auto sleep, the brightness for the screen to make the screen darker or brighter, and then the volume for the videos and or the music that you could install onto this frame. And then we have one of the probably most important settings that I want to bring your attention to, and that's going to be open receive picture automatic. This is going to allow for the picture or video to automatically be added to your carousel of pictures on your digital frame. So if you don't have this toggle selected on, then you're actually not going to be able to have those pictures automatically added. Swiping over to the left again in the settings, you can use this frame as a nightstand alarm clock. So if you wanted to select that plus sign, you can have this digital frame repeat or ring or have a timer or set a label for any respective alarms that you may need. Continuing to swipe left on the settings, we then have the time zone. Again, this is pretty self-explanatory. One thing I do want to call your attention to is going to be the 24-hour clock. Make sure you toggle that off if you're not into military time, so that way you're seeing 1 p.m. versus 1300. Swiping left again on the settings is going to be sending the pictures. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, you are able to send pictures to this frame via the email function or the Kodak Digital Picture Frame app. So sending an email to this frame is going to be using an exclusive email link. So that's why it's blurred out here, because of the fact that this is a very unique frame ID. So make sure that if you don't want people to send you random things, that you are only sending this email out to those people who you want to receive pictures from. Swiping left again, we then see our storage. Remember that this does have 32 gigabytes of internal storage and 10 gigabytes of cloud traffic. You are able to upload 32 gigabytes of pictures and videos onto this particular frame. And then again, you have that 10 gigabytes of cloud traffic. And then the last tile under the settings icon is going to be the about function. This is just essentially going to give you your device name. It's going to give you any of your frame's software information, so on and so forth. So this one is basically just like information about this frame. All right, so this next portion of the video is going to be focusing on how to get the actual digital Kodak app. The process is going to be similar, if not identical, for both Apple and Android phones or devices. So here we have my iPhone. I'm going to go ahead and go to the App Store and type in the Kodak naming convention there. And you can see here that it brings up Kodak. So the app that we're actually going to be looking for is going to be the Kodak Digital Frame. So scrolling down a little bit, it looks like Kodak has a few apps. Here's the Kodak Digital Frame, and let's go ahead and press Get. And let's do the face recognition really quick. And so now that we have that selected, we're gonna go ahead and install this, and it's going to open. You will have to create an account with Kodak via this app, so that way you're able to utilize this app. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that really quick by selecting register now. Okay, so I'm back and I logged into the Kodak app. And so now that we're in this app, you wanna select add a new frame. And this is going to allow us to input that digital code that we saw in the settings over here, or scan the QR code. So again, the QR code and these numbers are going to change every 300 seconds. So now if you're not near this frame, I would suggest you use this number. However, if you are near the frame, I would suggest scan the QR code just for simplicity. So once you press scan the QR code, you can then see that I scan the code just like that. And so now I'm able to send this frame pictures and videos. So let's go ahead and test out to see how long it takes to send a picture to this frame. So let's go and press upload, and let's go ahead and do a photo. It is going to ask for access to your gallery. And on my phone here, I have a picture of, guess what, my cat. And I'm gonna go ahead and select her here. Let's see if the camera is going to pick it up, but there's a picture of my cat. Go ahead and select finish. Once I press finish, I'm able to review and select or unselect all of the pictures or videos respectfully. And then once I press select and then next step at the top right hand corner, you'll see that it says the frame is online, and I'm going to go ahead and press upload. Once I press upload, there'll be a loading bar, and boom, there is the picture of Emmy. And you can see how fast that was. Here's that picture of Emmy. And then again, I just uploaded that from my iPhone. It literally took 3 seconds. All right, so now let's try a different means of uploading. Let's go and press upload. Let's go ahead and select camera. And now let's flip the camera around and do a selfie. So let's see, here is me taking a selfie of myself. All right, there's my selfie. And I'm gonna go ahead and use this photo. And I'm gonna go ahead and press next step and upload, and there you go. Now you can see that my picture of the cat is right here, as well as my selfie. Again, you can play around with your aspect ratio for each of the cameras if you're having some weird cropping issues. But then also, if your family members are sending this to you and they don't inform you, you can also see in the album here, it says new. And this is going to indicate that you already have some people sending you things. You can see here that my nickname here is the one that sent the picture of myself as well as the cat. And that's going to be respective to anyone. So if you have your grandchildren sending you things, if you have your daughters, your sons, your boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever it may be, based off of the app, they're all going to have their own individual user profile, and you can actually select on their profile to identify which pictures they've sent you. Now, I would have to say that sending over the pictures was really fast. So let's go ahead and send a video and see how that's going to work. Surely I have a 15-second video of my cat in here. Let's go back to the Kodak app. Let's select upload. Let's do video. And then we have this video right here of Emmy that's playing around in the kitchen. So you can see that this video is going to be too long. So we can go ahead and use the button at the top there, the scroll wheel, to shorten or trim the video. And once we've trimmed it, we can then select choose. And because we're trimming this video, it is going to have to prepare because there are some video editing processing that needs to happen in the back end of the app. But once this video is complete, we're then going to send it over to the digital frame. All right, so I tried to upload that video of Emmy to my digital frame here, and I would have to say I'm widely not impressed. And the reason for that is because it took me about 20 minutes for the video to compress and prepare, and then all of a sudden, whenever the iPhone screen turned off, it's like all the processes just stop happening. And so I don't like being held hostage about having to stay on a specific app in order for the processing to continue to do its computational data. And so I honestly haven't got the video onto the digital frame. I'm still working on it because every time I try to upload that 12-second video through the app to the frame, it just kind of takes forever. I did go around and try to upload a shorter video, and I would say the process is relatively the same. Now, there could be a whole bunch of reasons why this happens. It could be my internet, it could be the fact that I have an older iPhone, it could be the app itself, maybe it needs an update. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on and on, but honestly, if I was truly going to just give you my personal opinion on just the upload process, I would say the pictures do magnificently. They upload within minutes, if not seconds, to the digital frame. However, when it comes down to uploading a video, I guess just because there's so much computational data, and then if you're having to edit the video, like maybe trim down the video from 15 seconds to 3 seconds, I mean, first I kind of have to think to myself is how much information can a 3-second video give us to our loved ones or whoever's supposed to be receiving this particular video on the frame? So I don't know. Everything else I like about this frame a lot, but again, I'm not a real big fan of the slow processing of having to put the video from the app over to the digital frame. Now, this can be a little bit different. Maybe if I connected my iPhone through a USB-C port at the bottom, and then I took the video off of my iPhone and then plugged that USB into the actual frame, that could very well be the case, and that could very well be your situation. I'm not gonna fly all the way to Virginia or Hawaii or California and physically hook up my iPhone or my Android phone so that way I can upload a 3-second video to the digital frame. So at the end of the day, I really do like this frame. There are some things that I wish were a little bit better, mainly the video portion of it. Everything else I think does a really good job. And so I'm sorry that I wasn't actually able to give you like an actual process of getting the video onto the digital frame. It just took forever, and I did it multiple times and it just became frustrating. So if you have better luck with uploading your video to the digital frame, let me know what you did in order to be successful. Because for me, I was literally on the Kodak app holding my phone like this so that way the screen wouldn't turn off. And I'm like, well, that's kind of counterintuitive. Anyways, I hope that you like this video, and if you found this video helpful or informative or entertaining at the very least, feel free to leave a like and subscribe and share this video with whoever you might be sending this frame to. I actually know that my girlfriend and her mom are using this right now, and because I got jealous of all that coolness, I am actually going to be doing the same thing for myself and my parents. And then I'm going to be sending that very specific QR code and links to my nieces, nephews, and my siblings, so that way they can too send pictures to my parents. And so, I mean, it's not that I'm trying to be the favorite child, because I mean, realistically, I already won, but I'm sure my parents love the other kids too. I'll see you in the next one.